So I thought I would do a little review today of our Heidelberg Versafire EP, which is basically just a rebranded version of a Ricoh c9200. Ours is the 115 page a minute version. Ricoh, the way they brand it is the 115 is the 9200 and the 335 a minute is the 9110. So this would be the equivalent of a c9200. Basically, when you lease this equipment through Heidelberg, they take off the little nameplate that comes that says Ricoh on it, and they replace it with their logo on the front instead. But essentially, it's the same machine. The differences between leasing directly through Heidelberg or through Ricoh, most of it depends on if, let's say, if you have other equipment that you're leasing through Heidelberg, or the front end that you choose. We went with a fiery front end for the in-position software and the color suite and all that. With Heidelberg offers the Prinect, which I think is more valuable if you have other Heidelberg equipment in your shop. If you have offset equipment and then you have digital equipment, obviously you want to be able to match a short run on a digital and a long run on an offset press. So Prinect allows you to set up all of your color profiles and things like that between your different machines, so that whether you're printing 5 or 5 million, everything will color match, which is great if you're that size shop. You know, we're not that size shop, but it's a great option. For us, like I said, it's overkill, so we just decided to go with the fiery unit instead. Before I give an overall review of the machine, I figured I'd go ahead and give a little tour of the machine and show you how our setup is. We have the single large capacity drawer or trays. The top tray is the banner feed. So let me get you a closer look at that. So normally you have drawers that just open, and you have your sheets that you can put in that way, but this one will no longer open like that. You have to actually open it from the top. And now what you can do is you can feed in these longer banner size sheets, which are, this one is a 12.5, but you can go like 13 all the way up to, I believe it's 27.5 inches or 28 inches. So that way you can do your 6-panel 8.5 by 11 brochures, things like that. You can add a second unit to, or a large capacity unit to this machine, so you could have, instead of 4 trays, you could have six trays, or I think you could even do 3 of them. But I mean, that's, in my opinion, it's kind of overkill, but whatever. The great thing is that all 4 of the trays are vacuum fed, so even trays 1 and 2 down here on the main unit, these 2 are vacuum fed as well. So no rollers or anything like that you have to deal with changing out. Everything is vacuum fed, which means you can feed real thin tech stock, or you can feed, this goes up to 24 point board. So you can go all the way up to 24 point, and you can feed it basically through any single one of the trays. A lot of digital machines, you have to put it in the the large cap trays, because that way you will have a straighter paper path. This has such a long paper path that it really doesn't make any difference whether you run it from tray 1 or all the way down to tray 4. So let me give you a quick show of the toner. You have dual toner trays at the top, so basically the machine will never stop for you. which is great because if you're doing something else, you don't have to worry about the swapping out bottles or the machine stopping. It'll just go and go and go. We have a standard finisher unit because we have a Plockmatic here that will dock to it. This piece here will come off, and then I can physically take the Plockmatic and dock it directly into the finisher so that I can run booklets all in line. Now, we don't do that a lot because number one, this unit only has the face trim only. So if you have a say a booklet like this where you're bleeding off the top and the bottom, you're going to have to take this offline, trim it, and then feed it back through. So we don't typically run a lot of booklets in line. In actuality, a lot of shops, it would probably be more beneficial to just get a completely 100% offline finisher. But this was included with the lease of the machine, the way that we had it configured. So that's why we have this output tray, which also allows you to do staples, like corner stitch staples. They collect down in here somewhere. There's tons of different options that you can choose with all these Ricoh equipment. You can do, have an inline saddle stitching unit, which I don't like as much because it has more of like a pillow look to the spine, whereas this has this nice like crimper, so the booklets lay super flat, as you can see here. There's a difference between the top one being crimped and the bottom ones here are all crimped down. This one is not crimped, I should say. And then the bottom ones are crimped, so you can see how flat that lays in a box as opposed to this. I'm going to show you the inside of the machine, which is a very, very well-built machine. So you basically have two units here. Let's see if you can see the first one here. So this is your imaging unit down here. So your sheet will come through here. Your image transfer is up above behind this panel here, and then it'll transfer down here as the sheet goes through. This also is where the sheet is mechanically skewed back and forth to to help with front to back registration. The paper path, as you can see, it basically extends all the way from this point here all the way across down through the fuser unit here, and then wraps down down here, and this is where it basically flips the sheet and then comes back through all the way around and wraps around to go through for the second pass. Now, the fuser unit is on the second side here. Fuser unit is huge. I mean, it's really robust. It's really heavy. Majority of the pieces inside the machine, you can see are all metal, so it's not like just a whole crap load of cheapy plastic. The great thing about most of the parts on this machine is that they're usable or user replaceable. Ricoh refers to them as a TCRU kit, but basically I can swap the fuser. I can swap up here are all the drums, the image drums. I can swap the paper transfer roller, a few different things that are all replaceable by myself as an operator where I don't need to call a technician. So it's very easy to work on, and it also helps in the fact that if you have a unit that breaks down on you or needs replacing, I can just replace it myself. I don't have to wait for a service technician to come out here and fix it and have the machine down the whole time. So down here you have your waste toner bottle, which is gigantic. Like I said, the imaging units are up here behind this panel. It takes a few minutes to pull that panel off, but that's where all the imaging unit components are. The great thing about having the imaging unit here and the fuser here, in my opinion, I should say the imaging unit here and the fuser here, is that if you stack them on top of each other, which is like basically a lot of like Konica Minolta machines do that, as you're doing longer runs, your imaging area is being heated up by the fuser, right? Because, I mean, it's an oven, let's face it, right? So at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of a run, it's not going to be that big of a difference because the machine is cold. But once you get started going on it, then the machine is going to heat up on you, and you're going to end up with color issues. At least that's what I've experienced with KM machines in the past on bigger runs. Now I know they have the C14000, which is like the equivalent model to this machine. So I haven't seen that machine run in person, so I can't speak on it. But I know from the standpoint of how, if I was engineering a machine, I would go with a solution that's very similar to this, where you have an imaging unit here and a fusing unit here. That way this heat is not radiating up into the imaging units. The control panel is all touchscreen. I have it off right now just so it's quiet for the video, but everything is all touchscreen. It's just basically a giant iPad, more or less. The fuser, or the Fiery and the actual print engine work hand in hand. I can't independently run the machine without the Fiery unit working. And here is where I manage all the color, the profile, the profiling, things like that. If you've used a Fiery for any other equipment, whether it be Canon, Xerox, Konica Minolta, it's basically the same as on a Ricoh machine. You can go ahead and you can swap out colors, you can make changes, you can print color swatches so that you can make adjustments, things like that. So that's kind of universal for most of the digital machines that are out there nowadays. So not a lot of difference between a Ricoh machine and Canon and those type of things. The thing that makes this machine, in my opinion, better than any of the others I've seen out there is actually this unit right down here. And in here, you have a scanner, essentially, that scans the sheet when it comes through and checks for a color, checks for skew, front to back registration. So all of those things are happening basically on the fly, like as the sheets are coming out of the machine or as they're turning around for their duplexing pass. The machine is scanning all of those things and making sure that the front to back registration is good and that the color output is correct based on whatever your color profile is. So I know this is a relatively new technology that came out with I believe the c9200 had a simpler version of it, but in my opinion, it's very, very robust. I can print a 10,000 run from start to finish, and I grab the first sheet and the last sheet, and color-wise, they look identical. There's no color shift, and that doesn't make any difference whether it's at the beginning of the shift, at the end of the shift, at night, during the day. If it's 40 degrees in the warehouse here, or if it's 100 degrees in the warehouse, it maintains that color balance pretty much 99.999%. So I've never really seen any kind of color shift on this machine at all. So now basically my overall review, we've had this machine for almost 2 years. We got it in October of 2020, so this will be 2 years coming up in October. I've had 3 service calls on the machine since then, where the machine has actually been down and I had to wait for a service call. One of them was actually on the Plockmatic, not on the actual imaging unit itself. Now, I haven't ran it as much as these machines can really run. I mean, these things are designed to basically go 2 shifts, 8 hours, nonstop printing front and back. I haven't nearly touched on that, but it's been an excellent machine. I haven't had any issues with extensive like paper jamming or things like that. It's great for running text stock. It's great for running cover stock. I've ran metallics. I've ran magnetic sheets through here, although they're non-magnetized when you run them through. But I've ran real thin, like transparency paper. I've run that through here with no issues. I've done tabs. Never had any issues with those as well. The air feed system, basically, once you dial it in, you may have a jam or two at the beginning because you have your settings incorrectly for the thickness of the paper. But once you get it dialed in, it'll just feed like crazy. You don't ever have to worry about jams. I find most of the time that if I do have a paper jam, it's not because of the machine. It's just because when you put it in, maybe you curled the sheet upside down or you bent it backwards, so the sheet is not straight when it goes through. So yeah, pros, consistency with the paper feeding, obviously the amount of different types of paper that you can feed through here. Having the dual toner bottles allows you to basically just run continuous without having to worry about coming out and replacing toner bottles all the time. Working with the Fiery unit, I'll just kind of leave that review by itself because, like I said, it's kind of universal for most other printing equipment that utilize the Fiery system. However, the color consistency on the print engine is amazing. The front to back registration is amazing. When you input a new paper into your paper catalog, all you do is I have a little scanner here. So you use the scanner and it will automatically tell you what paper it is. Doesn't always work 100% of the time, but for the most part, you'll get pretty close to what the actual paper is. Let's see, what other pros? Obviously, environment here inside this room. This is a warehouse. It is non-air conditioned. It is not even, the ceiling is not even insulated. We are in the Bay Area, so it's kind of a even temperature pretty much year round. I mean, it never really dips below 40 degrees here. It never goes higher than about 90. So it's not as extreme as some places that have highs and lows, for where it's snowing and then where it's, a death heat wave. But humidity is relatively low here as well, so we don't have to worry about that. There are numbers inside the machine where excuse me, it'll automatically adjust humidity and things like that to a certain degree to maintain the temperature correctness for the fuser and for the imaging units. Let's see, other pros. Obviously, there's a ton of different finishing equipment that you can get for these machines. Like I said, for us, we just stuck with a basic finisher because of the attachment with the Plockmatic. But I see a lot of these units have the bulk stack finisher, so you can basically run like 5,000 sheets at a time or 7,000 sheets, whatever it is, and just let it pile up, and then you have a little dolly that you just pull the sheets out and move them over to your finishing area. So that allows basically just continuous printing without any kind of supervision, which in a shop like ours is great because on a day-to-day basis, I'm usually doing multiple things at one time. So I set a job up, I hit print, and I walk away, and I'm going and using the cutter, I'm answering phone calls or whatever the case, and the whole time the machine is just running and not having to worry about it. So those are pros. Cons for this unit, definitely for me, number one is envelopes, because I work at a shop where we do a lot of envelope printing, and so ideally we would like a 4-color solution that we'd be able to run a letterhead or a business card and then go ahead and run an envelope to match. Well, you can run envelopes on here, but the unfortunate part is you have to open the flaps, because for like a number 10 or number 9 size envelope, you're limited by the overall length of one side, which has to be, I believe it's like about 5.5 inches. So a standard number 10 is 9.5 inches wide, but only 4 1/8 inch tall. So you cannot run it through the machine without opening the flap, because you're going to have to run it in that direction. So that's kind of a bummer. You could still do some shorter runs. You can get around it by doing things like ordering envelopes from your manufacturer with the flaps already open, but it does add cost. Obviously it's a toner machine, so there is heat involved with the fuser. So if you do run envelopes, you have to make sure that you use a heat-safe envelope patch, which is not a big deal. That's available from a lot of manufacturers out there. So that is kind of a downer, especially for us, because we do run a lot of envelopes. Excuse me. Let's see, other downer, other con. For this finishing unit, the output tray I don't think is super sturdy. We used to have a C90 or 7110 before we upgraded this unit, and I've had these trays fall off if you don't take off the sheets in time, especially if you're running like a postcard stock where it's real thick or real like dense gloss material. So that is a little bit of a bummer, but like I said, a lot of these units have that bulk finisher in there, so that's not an issue if you go with one of those. Other cons, not really. Oh, the only other con is as great as there's an automatic feature when you put in a new paper stock. If you want to line up the front and back registration, it'll do it automatically for you. Basically, there's just a setting you go in there and you just basically auto calibrate the front and back. So if your registration is off a little bit, it'll go ahead and it'll run some sheets through, and then excuse me, it'll line them back up. So your front to back is within 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters, something like that. But the only problem is it takes like 32 or 33 sheets to accomplish that. So if you're running on like a customer provided stock, or if it's something that's in short supply, which in this day and age there's a lot of short supply for paper, you really should do that calibration like maybe once every few months. If you don't have the extra paper laying around to waste on that, then you're kind of in a situation where you shouldn't use that auto calibration. But if you're sticking with regular stock, that auto calibration is great. So that's definitely a pro there and a con at the same time, because you're going to waste those sheets. Other than that, I mean, it has been a great machine for us in almost 2 years that we've had it. We've had great customer support from both Heidelberg and from Ricoh. The service techs are excellent. I have never had any issues with tech support. Most of the time, the technician, if I have a little problem, I just call them on the phone, just say, hey, look, I got this issue going on, what is it? And they can tell me a solution right over the phone. I don't even have to have them come all the way out here. We are in the Bay Area. Like I said, it's a big metropolitan area, so there are a lot of technicians here. So if you're in a more rural area, it may be a little bit different experience for you, but based on how Ricoh has treated us, I can't complain about them at all. Like I said, one of the benefits of going through Heidelberg and not just through Ricoh is that in my opinion, if you're thinking about printing, a lot of times you're thinking about the name Heidelberg because they've done it for so long. They've have hundreds of years of experience now. So when you think printing, you think Heidelberg, right? And they want their brand to represent them well. So if you have an issue that pops up and you contact your salesperson and say, I don't like how this is operating, or I don't like how this is going on, they will intervene and they will fix the problem. And that can include issues that you may have had with service, or issues that you may have had with procuring your toner in time. Also, the great thing that we've had happen is if we've had shortages in toner on our end, I'm able to call my rep and say, hey, look, I got a hot job that came in. I'm going to burn through 10 bottles of yellow because it's a heavy yellow coverage. I only have 5 bottles. He will call some of his other customers in the other area and hook me up with more bottles, and then I can just replace those bottles for them. I don't know if you would get the same kind of experience through other leasers, but through Heidelberg, that's how it's been for us, and it's been great. So I know there's a lot of positives on this machine. I have very little negatives, and I would recommend anybody who's getting into the flat sheet toner business to seriously take a look at Ricoh and Heidelberg for the use of their machine. I've run a C9100 before this, which is basically the baby brother of this machine. And I had a great experience with that as well. This one takes our capabilities as far as the thickness, the sheet size, the speed to a whole new level. The only bad downgrade is that the old unit was one of the 5-color units, and this is only a 4-color unit. For our business, we didn't sell as much of the 5th color as we originally wanted to, so in the end, a 4-color unit made more sense when we decided to upgrade. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them the best I can. But Heidelberg Versafire EP, Ricoh C9200, great machine. I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking to get into flat sheet toner production. Thanks.